Hi, what's up? Hello, my name is Liz, and you're watching For Booking Out Loud. So this month I read 31 books, which is less than the last 2 months, but still pretty good. I'm very happy with that number, considering things definitely picked up this month for my work, and it's been incredibly busy and stressful. But like I did last month, I'm gonna split this up into what I starred all those books for, then series, then authors, and then finally just novels. And I actually get to talk about a few more books this month because I did a couple of videos talking about a lot of books that I've read already. So let's do this. I'm excited. So here are the stars. And then as a series update, I finished the 3 Magnus Chase books that I wanted to, and the 5 Trial of Apollo books that I wanted to read. And I actually did a whole video of my thoughts on Rick Riordan's books and the series, and I'll link that above and below if you're interested in that, so I'm not going to talk too much about those books. And again, apologize, I'm looking below about the books that I read. 31 books is a lot, and I just want to make sure I don't miss any. Okay, so I finished the World of Howl series with the last book, House of Many Ways by Diane Wayne Jones. And honestly, I am very happy with the series. The first book is Howl's Moving Castle, which the Studio Ghibli film is based off of. And love the movie, absolutely adore it. The book was good, and I loved how strong Sophie is in the book, more so than in the movie. And I was really taken aback when I entered the sequel and Sophie wasn't in it until like the end of the book. And that was fine. It was still a decent book, but I was just expecting it to follow the characters in Howl's Moving Castle rather than introducing more and more characters and then just having them sporadically pop in. But once I was used to it, and having that second book kind of prepare me for that, the third book was awesome, actually. Again, new characters were introduced, and the characters from the second book and the characters from the first book were sporadically intertwined. You get to see the characters grow up without having to find out all the gritty details, and you still get this wonderful magical adventure. I personally don't see myself reading this again, but if I had a student in the future or a friend in the future that really needed a fun magical adventure, I would highly recommend this book to them. So a decent series, glad I read it and glad it's wrapped up. So I am currently reading the Witcher series right now, and this past month I read number 5 and number 6, which is the Baptism of Fire and the Tower of the Swallow. And I talked about this in my last wrap-up last month, so the September wrap-up. And they're fine. Like, they have decent adventure. There's a little bit too much talking and dialogue and just setup for me. I wish there was a bit more action, because I absolutely loved the first 2 books in the series, which are short stories that kind of set up everything that happens after. But I have to admit, Tower of the Swallows, for some reason, really picked it up, and I actually did enjoy that a lot more than the last 2 books. So, of course, that means I will be continuing. I actually just got the 7th one from the library. I think it's Lady of the Lake. But I just got the next one from my library. I've been waiting for it for a couple weeks. So I will be reading that pretty soon. And my fingers are crossed that it continues being amazing. Or at least good. And then I did finally finish the Dark Tower series this past month. And if you've been following me for at least a month, you know I've been very up and down on this series, where it's crushed my soul from how bad it was to actually really enjoying it. And this last book is no different. I absolutely hated a part of the last book, so Song of Susanna. I hated what this one part Stephen King had in it. And then he brought it back for the Dark Tower, and I was so mad, and I just couldn't stop. But then, of course, he goes, and I absolutely loved how he ended this book. I loved Susanna's ending, I loved Jake's ending, and then I loved the Gunslinger's ending. I know a lot of people don't. It's very divisive, but I thought it was beautiful. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go right around and reread the series. It's gonna take me years before I ever pick that series up again, if I ever do. But overall, I am glad I finished. And I'm still debating whether or not I'd ever recommend it, just because I personally do not like that one thing he did in Song of Susanna and the Dark Tower. But it did not ruin the whole series for me, and it would be a very certain particular person that I'd have to recommend this series to. And you really have to love fantasy to want to pick up this book. And sci-fi, for that matter. Just as a warning. But on to the Stephen King books that I did read. I still haven't been able to pick up Thinner, and that's my bad. One day it will happen. But I did finish the Bachman books. I'll picture it here because I didn't bring it to this beautiful comfy chair and I don't want to get up. But the Bachman books have 4 novels, novellas, what have you, when Stephen King was writing under a pseudonym called Richard Bachman. You had Rage, The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Long Run, something like that. But I have talked about The Long Walk at length because that's one of my top 5 Stephen King books now. And I did a whole video on that, and I'll link it above and below as well. Absolutely adored that, and I would reread it again in a heartbeat. If I were you, I would avoid Rage. Did not really enjoy that one. Definitely didn't enjoy Road Work, but Long Run, it was okay. I'd pick it up. I mean, sure, why not? But Rage, take it or leave it. And then, of course, I finished It this month. Took me 2 weeks. It was a long, long book, but I did it. And I also did a reading vlog with it, and again, I'll link it above and below if you want to check that out. Overall, my thoughts are favorable. Good things, bad things, of course, like every book. Not my absolute favorite, but it's absolutely not the worst Stephen King book I've ever read, and definitely not the worst book I've ever read either. Okay, so moving on. I read a couple of novels that I can talk about. I'm still participating in the Sherlockathon right now, so I can't talk about all the books that I've read until I finish that, or I'm not going to until I finish that. And I just finished the Horrorthon, and I've already posted that vlog, so if you want to hear about those books, go ahead and check that one out. Again, above and below. But the novels that I read that aren't related to those, that I want to talk about, this is the section for you. I finished the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Susan Collins, and it's a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, telling the story of President Snow and kind of his origin story, really, and the beginning of the Hunger Games, like where do they come from? And I was really surprised at the direction it took. I mean, I knew it was about President Snow when he was younger, and I knew it was about the Hunger Games when they were just starting out, but reading it, I was really surprised and taken aback, but I really, really enjoyed it. And if I'm gonna be completely honest, I didn't truly enjoy the Hunger Games themselves as a book series. I enjoyed the movies. It's one of those weird ones. And that's why I picked up this new book. But I'm gonna highly recommend this book. I wouldn't recommend it to someone who isn't familiar with either the books or the movies, because otherwise I believe you'd be completely lost. It's really a companion book, but it tells you a lot about why Snow is the way he is and truly where he's coming from. And I really love when villains are created and given more humanity. And it's really a non-black and white scenario. It's more of a gray scenario, and you can sympathize with a villain and you can vilify a hero. And this isn't a vilify situation at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is more of a sympathize situation. And it was just a fun read, especially if you have nostalgia for either the movies or the books. So pick it up if you haven't already. I know it's been going around BookTube quite often, so just as a heads up. Now, I also read Sex and Vanity by Kwan, and the reason I picked up this book was because I absolutely loved his Crazy Rich Asian trilogy, and this is his newer work outside of that. To be honest, I wrote a review on my Instagram already, and it was fine. It was a fine book. This month I wasn't truly in the mood for like a rich trope, a summer romance kind of trope, and that's what this book is. And I don't think it was as good and well written as his Crazy Rich Asian trilogy. His characterization in his Crazy Rich Asian trilogy was really, really good, and you really enjoyed the characters in those books. But this one just kind of fell flat to me. So I might try to pick it up again in the summer, or when I'm really looking for that easy romance book feel, but this just wasn't it for me this month. But if you're in the mood for like easy romance, rich trope, haters to lovers, this is the kind of book for you. The nonfiction book I did read this month was Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington, and it was phenomenal. It's about the inherent racism in our medical practice in America, and it goes back to colonial times all the way to present day. And it is chronological, and she looks at different studies that have happened, and she looks at these awful things certain doctors have done that were common practice, and then how they've I will say it is a very hard book to read because she doesn't fudge the details. She gives you full front the amount of pain some of these patients were in, and the amount of hardship and trauma and disservice doctors, nurses, hospital systems, and just practices have been. It's not an easy read, but it's so important. And if you want to learn more about how racism isn't just a social interaction, a negative social interaction happening on the street, but it's also inherently in medical systems, political systems, in every aspect of our lives, and it always dates back to what has happened before, and it's a domino effect. This is a really good book for that. So I highly recommend that nonfiction. Again, only if you can handle it and you're mentally prepared. And the last book I want to talk about is Girl, Serpent, Thorn. It is absolutely amazing. I was so surprised at this book. I picked it up because it sounded like a Sleeping Beauty trope flipped on its head. And I'm like, sure, why not? I did not expect to like it as much as I did. And so happy that I do like it as much as I did. I didn't realize there was Persian myths mixed into it. I didn't realize there was LGBTQ themes within it. And just how strong the female characters in this book truly are. And the idea too that it is a singular novel, it's not part of a series, so you get everything from this one story and then you're done. And it was just beautiful. I loved it. I highly recommend it for anyone who's looking for one of those flipped on your head stories, especially like a Disney fable kind of thing. Girl, Serpent, Thorn, yes. Yes, 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 yes. But that is my reading month. As much as I can talk about now. I've been trying to update different books that I've read throughout the month so these videos aren't as long. I don't know if I truly succeeded, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you read any similar books to me, please let me know in the comments below, or if you have any recommendations. I always love adding to my ever-growing TBR. It happens. I'll always get to it at some point, right? That's the philosophy. But have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.